Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fabulous edition of Clutching Our Pearls. I'm Marie Hale, and this podcast is for Forward Revolution. This is a company that looked 2020 in the eye and said, you know what? We're going to make something better. We address topics that range from feminism to the female recession to the diversity recession and the pandemic that tore families apart. And today I have the special honor of talking to one of my favorite families, and I can't wait to tell you more about them. They have to be the epitome of how to build and rebuild, and to do it from a place of love and feminism. As we always say, you will hear swearing on this podcast. You can bleep yourself if you'd like. Today, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Alyssa and Alaina Goss. Alyssa's a 19-year-old and a sophomore at Irvine Valley College, transferring to Pepperdine University early next year. She's majoring in theater, following in Mama's footsteps, with a minor in history, and she's gonna follow in her grandma's footsteps, who's one of my favorite people, and become a high school theater teacher. Alaina is 17 and she's currently a senior at Corona Del Mar High School. She plans on attending Stanford University to become a vet tech and just put her 3-year-old kitten that she's fostering in the other room so that she can have a conversation without the mewing. Her goal is to open a neonatal animal sanctuary and work with elephants in Africa. So ladies, welcome to Clutching Our Pearls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are talking to both of you today because you were raised by two of the most badass feminists I've ever met.
Absolutely.
So your grandmother was my theater teacher when I was a sophomore in high school, and your mother quickly became my best friend because of the sheer awesomeness. And now the world is getting blessed with the two of you. So
yeah,
we're going to do a lot of talking today about what it means to be raised in a feminist household, because I don't know about you, but I think a lot of families are raised with all the shoulds and the coulds, and we should ourselves in all kinds of dysfunctional family situations, right? But we're going to do it better because we're going to undo all the wrongs that our parents ever did. Tell me what it's like to be raised by not just one, but two crazy ass feminists.
Definitely different. Growing up, all of my friends, I was the kid in elementary school and middle school who already knew about sex. I already knew how your period worked. Vagina was a very common term at our dinner table.
Still is.
So our relationship with our mother has always been viewed very weirdly. A lot of people don't understand it. We were very questionable growing up. I've had plenty of teachers and youth pastors concerned that I knew as much about the human body as I did. But I wouldn't change it any other way. The amount of my friends who would come to me to ask me questions because they didn't want to tell their moms or ask their moms about their periods or ask their moms about sex was just mind-boggling, because to me it was normal. It was normal for me as a 10-year-old to go and ask my mother, what's a penis and what does it do?
Well, I mean, regardless of that part, I think growing up with my grandmother being just the lovely, awesome person that she is, and my mom being just fantastic, I know for me personally, I felt proud to be a girl. I felt proud of who I was. They would welcome anything that I had with open arms, and it's just beautiful. And like Alyssa said, there's people who were just confused because it's weird for us when people don't have a relationship like that with their mom. And I think that's why it's so important that this is such a huge topic, that people understand that you should be proud of who you are. Bottom line.
We just felt safe.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always been my theory that usually around 12 or 13, your children figure out that you're the stupidest human that's ever walked the earth.
Oh.
Everything you say is wrong. And then maybe, if you're lucky, around 25, they're like, maybe you knew a little something. The two of you seem to have a very clear view of why your grandmother and your mother were so special. Share with us a little bit about how that came into view for you.
Well, I'm not going to deny, I definitely did go through that teenage phase.
I think
my mom was stupid and I could do whatever I want.
Sneaking out of the house at 5 a.m.
I never did that.
Awkward.
I did it once.
Yeah. But
anyways, I think that as far as what it was like, kind of when we kind of realized what made them so special as to who they were, was kind of, I want to say, when we started noticing, once you get to that age, you go over to your friend's house to see their family dynamics. And it was the first time that we had realized, I think we were exposed to the idea of, oh, this is different. This is what people call normal. Okay.
Yeah, and I think I distinctly remember going over to my friend's house and her family just not her for being really reserved around her parents, which I mean, like, I get there's a lot of different family dynamics, but it was almost like she didn't know how to interact with her mom or dad or her siblings necessarily. And in our household, it was such a big priority that we felt safe and that we understand boundaries in a way of how we can communicate with others.
I think it's also another aspect of it is realizing how loud we actually are, and noticing, like, I'll go out, and I remember in like high school early on, I'd wear like I would start wearing crop tops or whatever, and it was interesting going in certain situations where, you know, it was interesting when my mom would have to tell us, like, remind us, like, okay, this might not be normal for their family. Like, this might be like something that we would be used to, but to another family, it seems weird. Like, that I think was the weirdest part, and the more realization where I was like, oh, our family's pretty cool.
Well, I distinctly remember in middle school when Alyssa's like, oh, this is what makeup is. And Alyssa would try an experiment at the house, and my mom would be like, honey, I don't think that's what you should wear. And Alyssa would say, oh, okay. And so she'd go bringing the makeup to school and then come back. And then I think it was like she realized that it wasn't the best choice. And Alyssa's like, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, I think that is one.
No parent has heard that ever.
I do that
documented immediately.
Right. I really appreciate her doing that, though. There were a lot of times in my mother's parenting, and my grandmother's done this too, where Alaina and I would think we know better, and then, as every teenager does, and we'd be like, no, of course, you're dumb. Like, we know what we're talking about. Blue eyeshadow with red lipstick definitely goes together when I'm an 8th grader. And then you'd go to school and you'd see a picture of yourself, and then you go, wow, I look like a freaking clown.
Well, regardless of that, as much as they were looking out for us in our best interests, they also were very big on letting us have our own freedom and letting us make our own creative choices. And I think that, in middle school, I had quite the style. I would like to wear every color of the rainbow and didn't really care what anyone said about it.
And they supported that.
They did support that. And it's like, I think if there was something that if we go in with confidence and it's just guidance and parental guidance and supporting everything that we do. And as much as parents will be parents and they're going to guide you in the right direction, they're still going to support you.
And so when you talk about them supporting you in everything that you do, I'm sure you got into some shit that you shouldn't have been doing. When you had to be brought back in a feminist way for going out and doing something that maybe somebody else's parents would have shamed them for, how did that look?
Oh, gosh.
Not great. I know one instant, like, are you talking about like situations where my mom would let us do something to make us feel empowered and make us feel better that maybe like another family just like would just see as just not? I would say my senior photos. We got a lot of backlash from that.
And so I'd like you to tell a little bit about how you got to the place where your senior photos were ready to be taken, because they were not the normal senior photo?
No, definitely not.
No.
My senior year was definitely one that was interesting, despite the fact that COVID had started halfway through. But I had gotten very sick my senior year. I had a condition called MALS. Long story short, I had only 15% blood flow to my digestive tract for 2 years. No one on the West Coast knew what it was, so I was labeled anorexic, a drug seeker, until Grey's Anatomy helped me diagnose myself.
Yeah, so basically what it is, the reason why she didn't have blood flow was because there was a ligament cutting it off.
So what did that do to your body?
I'm sorry?
What did that do to your body?
I could not eat without intense pain. I could not digest food properly, so I wasn't getting nutrition. I believe at the end of my junior year, I weighed about 117. By the start of my senior year, I was down to 84 pounds. So was losing weight increasingly fast. I was dizzy all the time. I'd pass out at school. I decided myself I wasn't going to drive anymore because it just wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And then I thankfully got my surgery in January of 2020. But my surgery, while it did fix that problem, I was able to eat. It was a great experience. I did end up getting a kidney infection from the catheter for the surgery, which put me in acute kidney failure. And I wasn't, despite me being able to eat again, I had another condition that allowed me to have a very fast metabolism, which is great because I can eat as many milkshakes as I want and not gain anything unless you are 84 pounds and need to gain something, and then you just don't gain weight. So the doctors had decided that I had to have an NG tube, which is essentially a lovely straw that gets to go down your nose into your stomach that feeds you formula until you are at the desired weight you want. It is very uncomfortable. It is not fun, and it is not pretty. But
going through that process and going through that extreme body change, which most girls go the other way, what changed for you?
My mental health was depleted. I did not think of myself as beautiful or hot or sexy. I was with my boyfriend. I still am. I love him dearly. At the time we were dating for not even 2 years, it was maybe a year and a half. And I felt like, there's so many other girls at my school that are so much prettier than me, and he's still with me, and I look like I'm from a concentration camp. I'm so skinny. I have a straw down my nose. It's probably so awkward for him to kiss me. I don't want to go to school with this. Luckily, I didn't because of COVID. Not the point. But I was like, this is awful. I feel so uncomfortable. My mother did not have that. She was not okay with me feeling like I didn't look any way other than beautiful. So,
and there's definitely, to make it worse, is like she would post pictures about how just whatever, and she would have it, and people would have to ask questions and things like that. And
so essentially what had happened was after my mom, shortly before I'd gotten my tube, my mom had basically told me, we're not going to wear sweatshirts anymore. We're not going to walk around the house moping. We're going to make you feel confident in your skin again. You're going to wear your old clothes. So I had, shortly after my feeding tube got put in, is when COVID came out. And I was noticing every one of my friends talking about how awful this is and how we don't get to go to have our senior year, and we don't get to go and have our graduation or go back to school or get to have prom, or, life sucks and it's so unfair that this happened to us.
Perspective is hard.
Yeah. So instead of me looking at it as like you're upset that you get to go in quarantine now, I didn't get to go to school for the past 4 months. Like, instead of looking at it that way, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this as an opportunity. So I told my mom, I was like, hey, Mom, can we get my senior pictures done this weekend? And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, I want them done with my tube, and I'm going to wear a crop top and a mini skirt, and we're going to get these done. So I went to a local coffee shop, and we blasted music, and we did this great photo shoot. It was just me. Since COVID had started, the coffee shop had actually opened up for me to be able to go in and take my pictures.
And you had a 5-inch scar.
I did have a 5-inch scar from the surgery down my abdomen. So I wore crop top so you could see the scar. And I kind of wanted to use it as a way to sort of, I guess, inspire or reach out to my fellow students, my school members, and kind of just be like, you know what? You're right. This sucks. None of this is what we planned. I didn't plan this to be my senior year. You didn't plan this to be your senior year. But instead of us sitting there and thinking, you know, this sucks, everything's awful, I look ugly because I have a straw down my nose. Instead, I was like, you know what? We can switch it. There's nothing saying we can't make the best of our situation. So you know what? I'm going to laugh about it. I'm going to say maybe you'll catch in Vogue a bunch of models with tubes down their nose. It's the latest fashion these days. That's where I was joking around. They'll make like little like earrings that like go like that, like a tube. And then,
when you first got it, my dad in the hospital,
my dad put a straw up his nose,
just like a small little
solidation.
Straw. He's like, look, I got it too. It's cool.
But I had also,
Go ahead.
yeah, and I was like, we don't get a graduation officially, but who's to say we can't have one at our own homes? Who's to say we can't make our own prom? And we did. Who's to say we can't, you know, still make the best of our situation despite what happens? That's the point of, you know, no one's stopping us from doing that. The world's saying we can't do certain things, but we can do it safely. We have our own bubble. We have our own way to do things. And my mom supported me through that and helped me do it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your dad and, you know, the problem he has with his nose and a straw. We'll get back to you later. Totally telling your mom you said that. How does he function in a highly feminist family?
Oh my gosh. He's definitely joked around saying how he is not only in a house full of very strong, opinionated females, but literally all of the dogs that we have are females.
He is severely outnumbered.
Yes, but I think my mom during her pregnancy, she's like, he was talking about how much he wanted a boy and all of this stuff, but when we were born, he's like, I would never go any other way. He's extremely, extremely supportive.
It's been cool being able to see him sort of become this feminist himself. He is very, very protective of us. And he's also all the time, he'll say like, you know what? You know, don't let a man tell you can't do this. Don't let a man tell him you can do that. Just the other day, we were at a hotel for my mom's birthday at a pool. And Alaina we were talking about boys that we would see around that were cute. And I had said, I'm like, oh, Alaina, just go and give him your number. And my dad just popped him. He goes, absolutely not. And we were like, oh, okay, Dad, be protective, whatever. He goes like, no. Let the guy chase you. You're the strong, independent woman. You should be fought for.
Exactly. And whenever there was, because I had recently gotten over a breakup, and he literally said, look, just that's a boy. You are the independent female. We're going to go get milkshakes now because we don't cry about boys.
He is so supportive. And everything so my mom does, he's so supportive with the book. He's supportive with her job. He's supportive with us wanting to do what we want.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about the book and the part of it that your father is in. Because your mother lovingly tells the story of their wedding night.
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, you have to know that having a father that is willing to have that story told, and it's not like, you know, he fell off the bed or, you know, did something, gave her a black eye on accident. But to have that story told has to be...
Sorry, she's plugging in.
Has to be something that he had to come to terms with.
Yes.
How did you see him go through that? I don't think there was ever a point where he didn't want to support us or support my mom, what she wanted to do. And the whole point of the book was to explain how you should be excited about being a woman, and especially how she was doing this with my grandma, who helped write it, and all of that. There was never a point where he was like, oh,
maybe we shouldn't do this.
Maybe we shouldn't do this. That. Like, no, he was so excited, and
I think there was one time he questioned something, and he questioned the title, not because of it calling Vagi-Tales.
Oh, no.
He was worried we were going to get sued by Vagi-Tales. That was the thing he was concerned about.
I have had people ask me if there are dancing, singing vaginas in this.
Oh, yes. I wish.
Oh, that would be exciting.
That would be so entertaining.
No, but I think it's just so exciting to see that, because I know that there's not a lot of dads out there that would necessarily know what to do with
Involve
that.
themselves as much.
But he will literally go out and talk about why people should buy the book, and he'll update her on all of the sales because he makes sure he gets notified when people buy a book. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Danielle, you did so good! You just got another book sale," and he's so sweet, so sweet.
I know high school is a really easy place, and I can imagine that it's easier when your mom's name is on this book, and your grandmother talks about having sex as an elderly person.
Oh, yeah. I learned a lot about my grandmother when I read this.
I learn a lot about your grandmother every time I talk to her.
Very true.
How did you guys handle the high school experience? Because
I've had a couple of my friends, because they follow my mom, because my mom's very involved in my life. And she was like, "Your mom wrote a book about her vagina?" And I'm like, no. I mean, yes, but no. And I had to like explain it. And then once people really understand what it's about, they're like, oh, wait, this is really cool. Like, I get to like understand that I'm not the only one. Like, there's been so many girls that I know that have read it and they're like, wait, I'm not the only one that has had that awkward period experience or is worried about whatever I'm thinking about that, which is really, really unique.
So are you telling me that high schoolers have evolved?
No.
Sometimes.
Absolutely not.
Only
I'm sorry, I won't say it. High school sucked.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm saying a select individual. But otherwise, no.
So what is it like to be a feminist in high school?
Not easy. I think that high schoolers, when you're in high school, you don't know who you are at all.
You think you do, but you don't.
Your brain is kind of centered on very few things, whether it's getting good grades or, going on a date or finding out if you're popular. Very few people, I think, actually think about like, oh, this is who I want to be. This is who I am now. And while there are select few people who do know that, it's just most people don't accept it. When I was in high school, it was a living hell. I had so many people who were so interested in how I looked, how I talked. So many people hated how I was just so fluently able to just talk about like, oh, vaginas, oh, sex, oh, penises. That bothered a lot of people. It bothered me with my mother being a lactation consultant of me being comfortable going up to someone and just being like, oh, your boobs look nice today. I see it as a compliment. Somebody else is like, oh, that's not nice. That's like weird. And I'm like, I'm just complimenting your boobs today, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, yeah. And I switched schools halfway through, and the communities between Trabuco and CDM is drastically different. And for that, I had to go through learning new people and for people learning more things about me and understanding who I am. And there is a lot of times where people were like, oh, wait, what does your mom do? I said, oh, she's a lactation consultant. And they're like, what? What is that?
Boys in high school love that explanation.
Yeah.
Boys in high school love to hear about how your mother gets to touch boobs all day, because in a high schooler boy's brain, they're like, ooh, I want to be a lactation consultant when I'm older.
I've definitely figured out how to.
Gross.
Yeah, it's nasty. Well, I mean, I've definitely dumbed it down to where when I tell them that my mom helps babies breastfeed, they're like, wait, so she deals with boobs? I said, I mean, yeah, but she helps babies eat, which is an extremely important part of life. So,
but high school is not easy as a feminist.
So good. So not everything has changed, even though the entire world has changed.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the openness that your grandmother and your mother and your father have shared with you almost connected you to yourselves as much as it did them.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I'm able to get a more better understanding of who I am as a person because I was able to have those conversations, and I feel comfortable to have the hard conversations with them. And it's almost given me the skill set to talk to other people that way. Like my mom being able to make me feel comfortable, and my dad and my grandmother making me feel comfortable and giving me the tools to speak about myself freely and not be afraid to talk about certain subjects have helped so many, specifically in my relationship with Ethan, my boyfriend. I feel like my communication skills with him have been incredibly, I don't know what's the word, matured, better synonyms. Just because we have been able to communicate in a way that's open, and I can now learn, that type of communication. And now I'm able to know that worked with me, and I can bestow that with my kids.
Absolutely. And I think for me, I definitely almost become a safe space for other individuals. And recently, like this summer, she's now a junior. She was a sophomore when I got there. She's super sweet. And we went to a pool party, and she's like, I don't know how to use a tampon, but I really want to go in the pool. And she's like, you're the only person that I trust because I know that you're a safe space. And like, for me, like for some people, they'd be like, oh, that's weird. You coached a girl how to put a tampon in, and you told her how long you can keep it in, how it works. But for me, I feel like that's such a sweet thing for me, because it's teaching other girls that we can be a safe space and we aren't going to leave you behind, because this is normal. All of this is normal. And it's funny because all of my guy friends will just talk about whatever, and they'll be like, oh, that's awkward, that's weird, that's gross. I said, okay, it's life. If life's gross to you, then grow up. But I don't know. It's
Please
just
continue to tell teenage boys to grow up. It'll work wonders.
Oh,
but what I love is that as we continue to go through the challenges that life has for us, and I know, Alaina, you've also had some additional challenges that you guys have been through the ringer.
Yeah.
We're going to need safe spaces, no
Absolutely.
matter what age we are. And when you get out there and you talk about things like the female body, which right now there's a great commercial out there that is selling I believe it's like a digestive vitamin, and they won't let women say the word poop because nobody believes we poop yet.
Yeah, of course
cutting
not.
them off with the word poop. It's hilarious. We've got to be safe for the people in our space, and it's going to attract more people into our space that are worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the beauty of feminism is that it's there to lift everyone up, not just women, because we don't have to put someone else down to raise ourselves up. We're just trying to get on an even playing field here. So,
Absolutely.
First of all, I want to thank both of you for being here. I can't tell you how much I love you. I would wrap my arms around you if you weren't so far away in California. But your stories are both so incredible. And Vagi-Tales itself is an incredible memoir. You can find it on Amazon. There's a ton of places that you can buy it. Please make sure that you check it out. It's a beautiful experience, especially knowing that this was on Colleen's bucket list. And as she gets closer to the bucket, she got to see this come to life, and she got to do it in a joyous way with her daughter, and to watch her granddaughters flourish, and to see her daughter pick a man that could flourish in it as well.
Absolutely.
So I hate to end the conversation, but there's so much to absorb from that, and there's so much beauty that I think so many mothers need to hear. We don't have to raise our daughters the way that we were raised. If you don't think that it's an appropriate topic for conversation, maybe check in with yourself or another mom, or hopefully another mom feminist, and make sure that you can have those conversations now so that you can have all of the other conversations later. You can follow Mom Danielle Goss on Instagram at Vagi-Tales. She is also a very famous TikToker called The Lactinator. Her stuff is incredible. You have to check it out. For those of you that haven't already, make sure that you join our member portal. The link is in the description, where you can interact with other revolutionaries and find resources to craft the life that's right for you and your family. Our next session is actually tomorrow with Parenting Experts Get Real. And this has 3 of our parenting experts coming together to discuss the practical, emotional, academic, social, and viral considerations of returning to daycare, pre-K, and school. We are so thankful to both of you young ladies and to your mother who has shared you with us. Please, please, please give her and your dad a big kiss from everybody who listens to Clutching Our Pearls. And this podcast is part of the revolution and part of my dream. And so are the 2 of you. The more often we get to put strong women into this world, the better off the world is going to be. Please make sure to follow us on social media. And thank you so much for listening.